All right, everybody, welcome back to the Undevelopment Sports Show. This is going to be a great sit down with a former student of mine, current Army Lieutenant Jeff Ejekam. He was one of my favorite students that I had at Tank School, part of one of my favorite classes at Tank School. We'll get into that a little bit. It was a really fun class. I know it's like children where you're not supposed to say that you have favorites, but it was an awesome time. And he has an awesome, unique story. But bottom line is he grew up in Houston, found his way to West Point, so the United States Military Academy at West Point, and played football at Army, and was part of a transition there, which was a little bit heartbreaking for me because it included beating Navy for the first time in a long time. But we want to root for West Point whenever they're not playing us. So we'll talk about that a
Absolutely.
lot today. And then following that transition, came down to A Bullock at Fort Benning with me, where I first met him. Outstanding young man, outstanding soldier, outstanding leader. Got his way to be a tank platoon leader, which is one of the best jobs that I have had and will ever have. And so we'll talk about that
Absolutely.
some, I'm sure. And then he is working his way into the NFL, possibly the XFL. Hopefully, we want to see him, on a roster one of these days soon. So we'll talk about that a lot. But overall, just an outstanding young man, an outstanding leader, and someone I wanted to share with the Odin community because he's got a great background and a great story. So with that, Jeff, I'll open it up for you if you want to take some time to hit anything that I missed or any personal things that you want to add. This is your chance.
I appreciate it so much having me on the show. I've seen a lot of the shows, and I love what you're doing with just leadership development and just all sorts of things that you're putting out there. It's really nice to see because it makes everything relatable and it helps a lot of people. I've been getting into podcasts a lot too, so it's just nice to have more material to learn and grow from. So I really appreciate that, and obviously I appreciate the kind words. Very flattering. You're a great mentor, and it's crazy. Even though we, went to the rival schools, we bonded like crazy. So I really do appreciate the mentorship and just looking out. And you hit everything on the head. Yeah, you really did hit everything on the head, and I'm just very excited to be on the show and just talk.
I appreciate that, Jeff. And I just want to put out there. So there's this idea that Navy grads and Army grads don't get along. And I think that's probably more of like, without a better term, more of the nerdy folks that go to the schools that kind of have that mentality. I know,
Absolutely.
especially working with all the soldiers that I've gotten to, I loved my West Point grads. They were some of the best students that I've had, and a lot of good officers that I've worked with there. But really, and I mean it, I root for West Point, especially the football team, every single game of the year except for the Army Navy game. I want them
Oh
to
yeah.
do well. I want y'all to do well. And then we'll jump into the first question we got here, kind of on that. So through sports, growing up playing sports, football, into college, especially at West Point, and then eventually into the Army, what are some of the best leadership lessons that you learned through those experiences, and how do you think they translate through to everyday life?
So I would say the biggest thing, and like it's crazy that I actually found this out at West Point, playing football in my senior and junior year. But the biggest thing I think for leadership wise is like obviously you have the pillars of lead by example. If you're gonna do something, make sure if you want somebody to do something, you got to be able to do it for yourself and stuff like that. But I think the most important thing that I lacked, even when I was just growing as a leader, playing sports, classroom, whatever it may be, was knowing your audience and knowing that you can't really use the same tactic on one person that you could on another. You have to appeal to people, and you have to know, like, if you want them to do something, if you want to lead that person, you have to know what type of leadership style that takes. So I used to be, I can say it myself, like I used to be the in your face guy yelling, like, come on, let's go, like all the time. And I started to realize, like I said, it wasn't until I got to college that, like, obviously in high school, I was the guy that worked very, very hard. I played with some phenomenal athletes in high school, and they ended up going to schools like Texas Tech, Arkansas, SMU. You know what I'm saying? So like, I personally wasn't necessarily the 5-star, 4-star recruit in high school, but one thing that I was is I worked my tail off every single day, and then people definitely respect me for that. I was always in the weight room. I was first one in, last one out. I was always getting extra work in. So people definitely respected my game, and it wasn't that I was a bad player. I was a very talented player. It's just I played with a whole bunch of talented people. So sometimes you get overshadowed. But um, when having that. as my background and stuff like that, I was able to be the rah rah guy. Like, come on, because if I'm telling you to come on, it's like, oh man, yeah, he works hard enough to tell me to come on. So he, like, yeah, sure. But when I got to West Point and I realized like I can't do that because there's one people above me who have been in this system, who have led already, and I had to prove myself again. It was almost like I had to prove myself all over again. Like I work hard. Yeah, you go to West Point, everybody works hard. This is what we do at West Point. So what else is different? So I kind of had to take a step back, and like I said, I didn't realize this till my junior or senior year. I had to take a step back and realize like you can't always be the in your face guy. You can't always be the loudmouth guy. You can't always like sometimes you have to really just groom people and sit there and be like, all right, like this guy just needs to be talked to. He just needs to be walked this way, and stuff like that. And then it really hit me when I started coaching after I graduated at the prep school. When I took that same tactic, when I coached, I never yelled. And there was never one time I yelled. And if I did, my players knew that they messed up really, really bad. So having that onus on and having that standard of okay, like if Coach Ejekam yells, like then it's bad. Like we really, really, really messed up. So, and then I took that, and even in my platoon leadership, I took that with my soldiers. Never once have yelled at my soldiers. If I do yell, they know like yeah, we messed up real, real bad. So, it made honestly like going through that process made me a better leader overall because there are some people that you have to yell at, but for the most part, like people just want to be talked to. And when I figured that out, I was like, I've kind of been doing this the wrong way. Like it actually made me more personable with my soldiers, with my players, and my teammates. When you actually sit there and get to know like how do I appeal to this person and how do I lead this person? Like I can't always yell at this person. I can't always baby this person. Like how do I find that happy median? And I think that was one thing that really and truly stuck out to me, and probably one of the most important parts of leadership is just knowing your audience and knowing how to tailor yourself so that you can get the job done and at the same time take care of that person and get them where they need to go.
That's spot on, and that's awesome that you brought that up. And I will say, good on you for figuring that out. Kind of in college, because that was the same way for me, especially similar, kind of background and mentality where I was in your face and working hard, and that's all you knew. And I didn't really figure it out until maybe a few months into my platoon commander time. Actually, it was that hey, I'm going to yell at you and I'm going to work you so hard that you're going to be great. But then, especially with newer generations and newer mentalities and upbringings, there's a lot more of the I don't want to call it softer side of things, but more of the emotional aspects of it when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
leadership. And that was something that took me a little while to figure out. So good on you for figuring that out sooner than I did and sooner than most people do. And I think that was a great point. Um, so you brought up some of the stuff that leads into the next question with regard to service academies and recruiting and the stars and let's face it, the recruiting system is there's a monopoly on stars and
Oh
just
my
how you
goodness.
go through the camps and all the the spark camps and all these
Oh
things
yeah.
and I
Oh
got
yeah.
it and for the most part they do produce pretty good results. I mean they're fairly accurate, right? I mean look at 3 years ago Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields were the top two players and coming out of high
Mm-hmm.
school, and now they're going to be two of the top 10 kids drafted tonight, actually. So, really excited
Mm-hmm.
about that. But with that said, why do you think that service academies have had so much success, especially recently, with regard to wins and bowl wins, despite not maybe getting those typical, 3, 4, 5 star recruits as some of the other teams do? And then, being able to beat some of those teams that do have some of those stars. I mean, I think
Right.
back and for when you were at West Point, y'all took Oklahoma to overtime, and that was
Mm-hmm.
amazing. And the following year, you took Michigan to
Mm-hmm.
either overtime or close to the end of the game. I remember right when I left Annapolis, they had beat number 4 Houston, so that was really exciting. And even while I was there, we went toe to toe with Ohio State and South Carolina. So why do you think the service academies have success like that?
So I would say a big majority of it is that one is it's actually interesting because the service academies uh, when I was getting recruited weren't really necessarily sought after by like the high profile athletes at the time because like there are some if you're really talented at football, a lot of people are like, well, I want to go to the NFL, and if I have to serve 2 years before I can even do that, or if I have to fulfill a 5 year commitment, what am I doing going to a service academy and stuff like that? So a lot of it, I feel like the success when it started turning around for us was simply like that rule changed, I think, when I graduated. So the following classes, you started seeing more recruits come in that, they're maybe 4 3-star athletes, whatever you want to call it, maybe not your 5-star athletes, but you started getting a little bit more talented players. But even let's backtrack all the even to me in my class and like when I came in, I think that the reason why you're seeing success now is because um the players that are coming to these service academies have something to prove. And I personally, like, I can speak for myself. When I got to the service academy, like, everybody was just like, oh, they would always talk about, oh, like how great the education is. I'm so proud of you for going to West Point and serving our country. Um, and then they'd always come to the football stuff. Like for me, I played receiver. Obviously, in a triple option offense, you're not going to get the ball that much. So you'll sit there and you'll talk to them. Oh, what do your stats look like? I blocked, had these many pancakes, and this, that, and the third. And like, okay, what about catches, touchdowns, all this stuff? And I will say this. My freshman year, and this is so funny that I say this. My freshman and sophomore year, I almost fed into that narrative of like, what am I doing? Like, I'm not getting any catches. I'm not getting any stardom. I'm not doing any of this stuff. Like, why am I even at a service academy? Because ultimately, yeah, I want to play professional football and I want to play at the highest level. I think I'm talented enough to do that. But at the same time, like I'm not getting the ball. So how am I going to show these people that I can do that? And I almost started feeding into that. And I think where it flipped was that you start realizing like football is not about you. It's a team collective sport. And I didn't believe this, but it actually came true that if you're talented enough, teams will come and find you. And it doesn't matter if you had 3 catches, 4 catches. Like for instance, we see the quarterback from North Dakota State, Lance. He's literally a top 3 prospect, and he didn't even play in the last season. Played maybe 2 games. Now, mind you, they had 2019 COVID and stuff like that. But at the same time, you're taking a chance on somebody. If you see the potential in somebody, people are willing to take a chance on you. So then once I started playing a little bit more my junior and senior year, I started realizing like it's not about me. It's about the team. And when you start playing for the team, it actually starts gravitating towards you. That's when the reporters started coming. Oh, Jeff Ejekam, he's top receiver. Jeff Ejekam is gonna have a breakout senior year. Jeff Ejekam is this, that, and third. And you get all these headlines and publicity and all this stuff. I finished my career at Army with 13 catches, I believe, and like a little under 200 yards. I still had a pro day. I had a tryout with the Giants. I had a tryout later on with a CFL team. I was still getting noticed at the end of the day. So just to caveat and backtrack off of that, it's just like you have once you. I think the academies are starting to get players that have something to prove. Like it doesn't matter if I go to a service academy, I can still be an athlete. I can still be talented, and on top of that, I'm still getting the best education to serve my country while doing it. So they just have something to prove. Like you can't feed into the narrative of like, oh, you're going to West Point simply just because it's a great school. Like no, like I'm going to West Point because this program is a top program now. Like we were in the top 25, I think 3 years, like at some point in the top 25, whether it be 19, 25, 24, whatever it might be. So like, no, this is a top program now. And then athletes are starting to see that and be like, oh, well, okay, maybe I should consider a service academy because they're top tier now. And like I said, they want it more versus the 5-star recruits and 4-star recruits that go to your Clemson's, Alabama's, Miami's, stuff like that. They feel like it was a birthright. It's like I'm a 5-star recruit, so I'm supposed to be here. Versus West Point is like I have something to prove when I come here. You know what I mean? So I think that's something that's really kind of changed the culture and it's really shifted. And then another thing is now this lift on the professional athletes part of it is you can go straight to the NFL now after graduation. So now you're really bringing in people that are like, all right, not only can I get the best education out there going to service academies, but now I can actually fulfill my dream immediately. So now you're starting to get players that not only are credible in character and all that other stuff, you're also getting talented players. So I think it's like I'm looking at their spring practices right now at West Point, and teams are gonna have to be looking out for them for real. And like it's very nice to see it, and it's very good to see that we're starting to get talked about at like a real football team. It's not the oh Service Academy pat on the back. These guys are so great, sort of nation. It's like no, like you have to game plan and scheme against these service academies, or you're gonna lose. And that's the beauty in it. And like I said, it's just the 1-2, the drive, and honestly, just like you're starting to get more talent in these service academies. So it's just a beautiful thing to see.
Great points, all brought up there. And for the viewers out there who aren't as familiar, so until very recently, like Jeff was brought up, you had to do your service obligation immediately after graduation. Now you can extend it or delay it, and then based off a certain time, you might even be able to make up for it in different ways, such as
Mhm.
Joe Cardona, the long snapper for the Patriots. He's in the reserves for the Navy, and he wears his uniform on business trips, but he's still an active member of the roster there for the Patriots. He actually won a couple Super Bowls. So I think I'm a huge proponent of that. Not only, personally and kind of selfishly because I want the teams to do well, right? But I think it's a
Right.
really good recruiting tool and say, hey, we can get these great leaders who have great character, who are outstanding in the classroom because our schools are some of the best, academic institutions as well.
Absolutely.
And you
Absolutely.
throw all that stuff together, and I think it's a great thing for everybody. And then obviously for the individual, it's great because now you can potentially live out that dream of playing professionally. Some examples there. Malcolm Perry did that last year with the
Mhm.
Dolphins from Annapolis, and Keenan Rennes did it a couple years ago. We have some West Point folks in the NFL, and actually one of the most successful service academy recently has been Alejandro Villanueva with the
Yep.
Pittsburgh Steelers. So
Yep.
West Point grad. And then, of course, one of the best football players of all time, Roger Staubach, quarterback from the United States Naval Academy. Can't
Yeah.
forget that when we start
I
talking about
can't
that.
forget that one.
Of course, of course. But no, great points. And then the thing, again, I want to hit on here is when you say we're getting really good, hardworking character guys to come play for these teams. And I think one of the results of that, or one of the things that kind of led to that, was the shift in mentality at West Point specifically.
Mhm.
Navy went through this about 10 years ago. We were really fortunate to get Paul Johnson and Ken Niumatalolo in. Y'all just got Jeff Monken in, and then along with him came Jay Bateman, which I know we've talked about him a lot, an outstanding man who's now at North Carolina. But talk to me about that transition from Jeff Monken and what that did to West Point football and how that kind of helped out the program.
Yeah, I think that is another thing, like very key is just the leadership that you bring in into these service academies. And I was actually the first recruiting class with Coach Monken. So when he came from Georgia Southern to West Point, I was one of the first classes he brought to West Point. And honestly, like as a freshman sitting back, like there were certain things that like the upperclassmen and stuff like that would carry kind of like from the previous years and stuff like that. And Coach Munkin literally just nipped it in the bud right there. Like, no, we're not doing this. Like, this is not how we win around here, stuff like that. And I was just like, wow, like, it was a culture shock for a lot of the upperclassmen. They literally were like, this is like, whoa, like, what's going on? Like, it was definitely initially when I first got to West Point and played football, it was business driven. Like, we had fun, but at the same time, you knew you had a job. We had to win games, and it was like almost like a do or die. We were tired of losing. Like, it was a losing culture at West Point, and Coach Munkin was not having it. He was not having it because he didn't get there to lose. He got there to win games. They brought him in to win games, and he takes that very serious. And honestly, once we shifted that culture, it's almost like I don't want to say the weight was lifted. It's like, but at the same time, you literally saw Coach Munkin transition into the like he's still about business, and I can text him right now. He's still going to be about business, but he starts dancing in practice with me. I've never seen this man dance a day in my life. He's dancing in practice with me in my junior senior year versus my sophomore and freshman year. Like you couldn't see that man crack a smile. He was just sitting there ready to go every single practice. But like as the culture shifted, like he still maintained that professionalism, but you could tell that we were having fun. Versus in the beginning of the grind years, as you like my freshman year, we went 4-8, 2-10 my sophomore year. Those were grind years, and we were close. Like there was games where we had to get over the hump, but we just couldn't get over the hump. But once we went 8-5, 10-3, the next year after I graduated, they went 11-2, and then so on and so forth. You could tell that football was fun again at West Point. It wasn't just these guys go to the service academy, they try to do their thing, and then they go serve. No, like we had fun winning and we had fun playing. It wasn't a job anymore. And I feel like Coach Muggin did a phenomenal job establishing a standard and then rolling with that standard, and then you just made it fun. Because now, like I said, the culture shock came my freshman year, but then once you have the freshmen that came in my junior and senior year, that's not a culture shock anymore because now that's how we've always been. So you come into that mentality like, oh no, like this is a grind hard football team, and we're gonna work and we're gonna have fun doing it too. And so once you start getting that and it started building that culture, it was just it took off, and that's literally what it's been doing with the program. Coach Munkin has done such a fabulous job. Coach Bateman is another guy that just was so phenomenal. Coach Davis, all the staff, they just do such a great job of like just making it a family oriented program. Like I literally felt I was 1,500 miles away from home, and you couldn't even tell just because of how much the coaches cared, how much the coaches loved you, supported you. Obviously, there's going to be the tough love days where you're like, man, Coach Munkin is really grilling me today. But at the same time, it was all out of love, and he made sure to tell us that every single day. Even in the beginning years when he was super about business, he was like, I just want to let y'all know, like, I'm hard on y'all because I know y'all can do better, and I'm not gonna let y'all subside below that. Like I'm gonna make sure that y'all know that y'all can be the best y'all can be. And it really worked. It really worked. And then once it started working, it started clicking, we just started having fun. And it was honestly just a good time at West Point. And like it was a surreal moment when we killed that streak. And that's kind of where it was kind of like the click. It was like, all right, now we're playing ball at West Point. And then ever since then it's just been kind of a mile high club. So
I'm a huge fan of Coach Monken, and that's really great that you brought up the kind of the setting the standard aspect of it, because that's our first step of our Odin development leadership process, is to establish that standard, because without it, you're not going to really grow, or you have nothing to grow towards. So that was really cool that you brought that up and how he did that and changed the culture there. I don't think there's a sport out there that is more impacted by coaching culture than football. I think part of it's
absolutely.
because the coaches have much more of an impact because they're building schemes and they're calling plays and stuff like that. But as far as the culture goes, I don't think there's more of a sport that's impacted it than football. Fun, Jeff Monken, personal story on my side. So, growing up in Georgia, I was a pretty good high school football player. I wasn't great, but everybody who's halfway decent thinks they're going to play college football, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what you want to do. And, one of my best friends, who David Yankee, we've had him on the show before, collegiate All-American at Stanford, drafted in the NFL. Everybody and their sister came to, come scout him out and stuff. And I remember Coach Monken was actually the offensive coordinator at Georgia Southern, which was a AA team at the time when I was in high school. And he came, and some other coaches came from Southern to watch David and some of the other players. And, I spent some time talking to him, and he was the first person who kind of put me in my place and said, hey, listen, kid, you're 5'9". There's not a whole lot of a future for you, but your toughness and your will, like that's what people look for in life. And follow through with that. And, just to hear a coach say that to me, although it hurt at the moment, looking back on it, that was exactly what I needed to hear at the time.
Absolutely.
And, to kind of move on. So I appreciate that from him, and obviously everything he's done for West Point football too. Great, huge fan of Coach Monken. I honestly thought he was going to go to Vanderbilt this offseason, just because I think that Vandy has a similar makeup to a service academy, and I think he'd have a lot of success there. I'm glad he didn't, because I want to see him succeed at West Point. But I think that's it. Whoever gets him, if he leaves West Point at any point, whoever gets him is going to get a fantastic football coach.
A phenomenal football coach.
All right. So one thing I forgot to mention, based off your last answer too, I want to give a shout out to all the wide receivers of triple option teams, because they get so overlooked and absolutely no love until they're called on to score that 180-yard touchdown catch that they get every other game. But let's not forget, Darren Waller was a triple option wide receiver at Georgia Tech,
Yep.
who is absolutely thriving in the NFL right now. Demarius Thomas was a triple option wide receiver. I think Calvin Johnson might have been one at the last season at Georgia Tech, if I remember correctly, when Paul Johnson went there. So, and Calvin Johnson, who I personally think is the best wide receiver of all time. His stats aren't going to back it up, but just physically, I think he was unbelievable.
Absolutely.
So just shout out to all those triple option wide receivers. My buddy Matt Aiken, who was the captain of the team my senior year, who lived across the hall from me. No love to triple option wide receivers. So I wanted to give you a shout out. All right. So last question here. So we talked a little bit about this in the beginning, but there's still a goal out there for you to play, professionally somewhere. So, what's your future look like, and, what's that kind of look like in your daily life, and what's that, sort of goal that you have in mind right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, it's been a roller coaster. There have been years where I've just been like, yeah, it's not happening. And then there've been times where I've just had to be like, get up and do it. Like you have nothing to lose. So like I said before, after the season, I did a pro day, did well at my pro day, and ended up getting invited to the Giants local day after that, and worked out with the Giants with a bunch of other guys in the PA, New York, New Jersey area, Connecticut area as well. And we all came to the Giants facilities and basically lived the life of the Giants for a day, film room and everything. After graduation, I stuck around and was an athletic intern for the prep school at West Point. Coached receivers and running backs, and slot backs, and stuff like that. Was still training, still working, still working, still working. Um, it wasn't until I got to A Bullock where I actually during A Bullock just during gunnery, we were I got a call and they were saying, hey, the Ottawa Red Blacks are having a tryout and they want you to come out. Is during this time, da 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 da, and told my instructors, and they were like, absolutely. They were like, 100%, because like we always used to talk football, and they were like always ask me questions and stuff like that. And they're like, yeah, 100% you're going. Like, we'll make it happen. So I ended up going there, performed actually pretty well. But again, a lot of the teams were asking me how long am I into my service contract, and I only told them I was about a year. So obviously, I have one more year to pursue. Um, and then actually recently in 2020 of August, again after gunnery, it's almost like gunnery is like my magic thing that calls on teams. But after gunnery, I was out there 30 days, and then I get a phone call, another phone call from my mentors, and they're like, "Hey, I don't know how you're gonna do this, but you need to get down here and you got to work out with the Seahawks and the Bills. Like, get down here." And I was like, "Oh goodness!" I was like, "Okay, all right, here we go." And just grabbed my cleats, started going down, drove down, and worked out for them. Performed fairly well, but obviously, you're competing with everybody in the nation, and you're on the list, so you're just kind of waiting for your number to be called whenever it's called. But just the process of everything, like honestly, like you got to be ready. You got to stay ready. And the thing is, like for me, like I always make sure that like I'm taking care of what's putting food on the table first, which is the army right now. The army is paying for my food. I always take care of my soldiers, take care of my job, and do that first. So I'll PT in the morning, and then go to work, do my thing during work, and then after work I'll lift weights, and then I'll hit the field of some sort and do some sort of footwork, uh, football training of some sort. And that was pretty much every single day. So basically, I was working out 3 times a day every day. Then even during this deployment, doing the same thing, three times a day, working out. So I work out in the morning, work out in the afternoon, go to work during the day. And honestly, like I said, it's just a matter of staying ready. Um, the process is hard, obviously, because again, triple option, wide receiver, in the army with all these service obligations, and it's just like like it's almost like it's like the world saying like, dude, it's just not gonna happen. But at the same time, you have stories like Ali Villanueva, and you're just like, it's gonna happen. And then I have 3 teammates now. I have Brett Toth. He actually graduated with me. He's playing for the Eagles. Elijah Riley, defensive back, playing for the Eagles. Cole Christensen, he's with the Chargers. So like, it's doable. It's not something that is impossible to do. And the thing is, Alejandro Villanueva was a tight end at West Point when he played, and that just goes to show that like if you really want something, then you're determined to get it, then you're gonna get it. And um, I've been blessed enough to like have a lot of people in my corner, and I've actually been doing a lot of working to get people in my corner, and really not just my corner, but service academy athletes. Period. And I'm pushing an agenda to try and get more opportunities and more spotlight to service academy athletes. And I'm hoping that I can be the poster child, as you can say, for this project to get more light to these service academy athletes. And I've been in contact with a lot of pretty important people trying to push the agenda, and hopefully we'll stay tuned and see what comes out of that. And hopefully I can continue to be that example and that standard to helping more academy grads get to chasing their dreams and also serving. So I'm looking forward to that. But process has definitely been a roller coaster, but it's fun, man. And especially when you doing something that you love doing, it's just fun. Like it doesn't seem like work to me when I do football stuff. It just seems like I'm having fun. So that's really what's been the journey for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. And obviously, we will wish you the best. I can't think of too many better folks. Obviously, I'm biased just because I have a personal connection with you, but can't think of too many better folks to represent, Service Academy athletes and that mission better than you. So really excited to see that from you and wish you the best. And not I don't know who watches these completely, but if you're out there and you want someone that you can count on with outstanding character that you can trust and that's going to work his tail off, then Jeff Ejekam is a guy you want to at least take a look at. So hopefully that opens up for you at some point in the future. So
Absolutely.
with that said, now all the serious conversations are over, what are you looking forward to tonight, the NFL draft, as far as good quality young men getting drafted? Who do you have your eye on, and who are you really excited about?
Honestly, I think I'm the most excited for is Devonta Smith, and the reason being is because like it not even similar at all, but it's just like as someone that's been overlooked because of X, Y, and Z, like he's being overlooked because of his size. And for me, and like I'm a big dude, like I'm 225, like 6'2". This dude is, I think he's like maybe 5'9", 5'10", 165 soaking wet. And the things that he's done is just remarkable. And to see that teams are willing to pass him up because of his size is absolutely baffling to me. So I'm very excited. I can't wait to see where he goes as far as getting where he lands. And another personal favorite, and simply just because it's my friend, is Lorenzo Neil Jr., son of the famous fullback Lorenzo Neil. He's good friends with me and my buddies back home in Houston. I'm just very excited for him and very happy that he's had the opportunity to get that. And obviously, can't forget my West Point boys out there, Santa McCoy, and Johnny Nation, Johnny Radican, who had a phenomenal season. I just so crazy how he emerged. It's crazy how he emerged, but I'm really happy for them. I'm curious to see where they land, and really just for everybody. I know it's extremely tough going through that, especially when you're waiting to get your name called. But as a lot of NFL players have said, a lot of my friends who are in the NFL said, uh, no matter how you get there, it's all about just getting there. So don't worry if your name doesn't get called during draft night. There's plenty of undrafted free agency deals like Cole Christensen, Elijah Riley. They're all on that as well, and they made it to the league and they sustained. So don't worry about when your name's called. Just when your name is called, whether it be during the draft time or off season, whatever it may be. Just when your number's called, make sure you answer the call. So that's I'm very excited for everybody, but particularly those names for sure.
Those are great names. I'm a huge fan of Devonta Smith, and there's a part of me that wants to hate him so bad because he was committed to Georgia, then decommitted and went to Alabama, and then the next year he catches the winning touchdown against Georgia in the national championship game. So I'm like, God, I really hate this kid, right? But you see what he does, and on the field he's tremendous. His route running is ridiculous. His hands are so good. He's just such a hard worker, and you see that on the field. But off the field, when you listen to him talk, he says all the right things. He says everything that you want to hear from a kid. He gives credit to everybody but himself, and I am really excited for him. That is a name that I can't wait to see where he goes, and I hope that he succeeds, on whatever team he's out there. But yeah, that's a really good one. I know Nick Saban obviously is a great football coach, but everybody that comes out of that program seems to be like that, though. I mean, all those
Oh
kids,
yeah,
they're
oh
all the
yeah.
same way.
I
So
I don't know if it was a documentary or just a video of just the mentality that Nick Saban carries and just how he cares for his players and how it's not even just about football. He makes sure he's grooming men, and it almost like it like when I watch the videos, I'm like, that's Coach Munkin. That's literally Coach Munkin right there as well. And just obviously you see the success of both those coaches, and like it's no, there's no, it's in the proof. Like they're both phenomenal coaches because of how much they care about players, not just football, but just players and grooming men. So I think, I mean, my hats off to Nick Saban. He's one of the greatest coaches, if not the greatest coach in college football for a reason. And when you do the job that well, you're always going to stay employed, and that's why he's never missed a beat. So
I'll add, it's genuine care. It's not
yeah,
made up.
yeah,
It's genuine care,
exactly.
and they really want to see people succeed, and that is really great. And just a note, Nick Saban coached at Navy for a year, so just want to throw that out there. As always, we have to bring that up. But Jeff,
Absolutely.
I appreciate your time, and good luck to everything. I'll give you a minute here if you want to add anything to any of the viewers out there, to any young student athletes that maybe you wish you knew, or any last pieces of advice before we leave.
I mean, I would say from personal experiences for young student athletes and stuff like that, um, make sure you're focused on every pillar that you are. You're a student and an athlete, so make sure you're taking care of your schoolwork and make sure you're taking care of your stuff on the field, the court, wherever it may be. And as far as just for everybody listening, uh, keep listening. to this podcast because it's definitely helped a lot of people. When you hear people's stories, it just makes it very relatable. And I think that's one thing that the world needs to start doing a little bit more is just learn to be a little bit more relatable to each other and just pick up on things that you never know. You're never gonna know until you ask those questions or until you listen in. So be open minded, have an open perspective, and again, like you're gonna learn a lot from just watching different type of podcasts like this. So definitely keep tuning in.
I appreciate that, Jeff. That means a lot. It really does. Good luck to you in the future. Hopefully, we get to see your name, on a roster at some point here in the next couple of years. And with that, as always, Odin Development family, appreciate your time. Thank you, and have a great day.